everybody, and welcome back to my modeling channel. So tonight we're gonna start building Falcon 900EX on the scale 172 by Broplan. So let's open the box and see what we have inside. So as I did quite a few lately, that's gonna be another vacuum kit, but that's not a big issue for us, as I've been doing many of those in the past. So that's sometimes the only options you have when you want to do this jet, especially on that scale. So we're gonna start with all this plastic card, and we will check what we really have. So we have initially the front fuselage, as you can see. Well, you have a engravement, at least structure panel are engraved, which is nice, and you also have the same for the windscreen. At least we are going to be able to do it correctly. It seems like there is a cockpit, and there is some clear parts for those who have the courage, but honestly I don't, to recut everything and build the cockpit and the interior. But to be honest, I don't have that type of courage. You could do everything if you want. You also have some clear parts to do every passenger windows, but to be honest, I think I don't really know if it was the pain, and as well my main issue would be, do I have the skill required for that? I know I've been skillful lately, you saw me doing a lot of challenges, but I think this is one of, I'm not that sure. Anyway, so we have the left and the right side. Then we're going to move on to another sprue. So what we have here basically is the tail. It's the two parts basically, but they are all together, but that's not a big issue. Then we have the tail of the 900, and then the engine number 1 and 3 nacelle. We'll see for the rest. Then we have, I would say, the right wing and the right horizontal stabilizer, plus some of the slot that we can insert between the wings, and that's going to give more rigidity to the model. Here we have another, basically what we have here is the left wing, still with the same story, and we also have some structure here that will go for the elevator, and then the engine pylon. So nothing too complicated so far. Then we are going to move on to the engine and undercarriage. So they are in injected plastic, and the first one, I mean both of them are identical. So we have the strut for the landing gear, the main landing gear. We have the nose wheel. Actually we have two nose wheel. We have the fan. We have both wheels. Actually, no, this is not the same part actually. This seems to be a bit different. No, they are exactly the same. So we have all the parts to do the gear bay. There is some stuff to do, basically some of the pedestal seems to be, and some of the details for the landing gear. And that's about it. So it comes with a very brief instruction sheet. As you can see, it's an A4 format, but it's pretty straightforward. Anyway, you don't need too much. The only thing I'm going to use here is the wheel well for the nose landing gear, and then it comes with a few instructions for the decals. You have the options of the French Air Force, the Spanish Air Force, and the South African Air Force. That's what you have for delivery, but anyway, you saw what I did. I built it in another livery And but let's talk about the decals now. So we have those decals. I don't know from who they are made, but anyway, pretty straightforward, nice and simple, but I'm not going to use them, as you already see. I built that for, that was a request for some of my former colleagues, and I hope they're going to enjoy it. So enough of talking, and let's start building.
So we're gonna start this build by preparing all our parts. So initially what you have to do, you have to remove and carve the plastic in those plastic card, and then basically, so for this I'm using a rescribing tool, and I will remove all the plastic around it. But the problem with that you're gonna face with the vacuum kit is you're gonna have to add the thickness of the plastic card toward the piece. So after that, of course, we have to remove that extra plastic by using some sandpaper. So this is quite time consuming, I have to say, but the big advantage of those vacuum models is a lot of aircraft are made in small series, so you can't find the Falcon 900, for example, or some other aircraft, some BizJet, or some really rare planes. You will be able most of the time to find them on vacuum kits. So this is one of the reasons why I also do a lot of vacuum sometimes. But I have to say that those models are for experienced modelers. And it's really time consuming. I mean, compared to other or injection plastic, this is a little bit hard work. So as you can see, this is taking quite a bit of time, but this is just the initial part. Then we're gonna have to really take care of all the small parts individually, but you will see that just a little bit later. So one thing as well that I'm doing, I'm using some adhesive tape, and I'm using those little grip that I'm sticking on the upper side of that part. And this is basically when the parts are really thin, you are able to grab them and to have a better grip when you're gonna sand them down. So what I normally do, I take a big sheet of sandpaper, add some water, and then I will sand them down to get the proper parts, the proper thickness. So this is a bit time consuming. The reason why I put water is to avoid to have this plastic dust all over my room or all over my workshop. When I have enough, I just go and rinse it and it goes through the sink. So it's the easiest way and one of the cleanest way to do those vacuum models. So What you do as well sometimes, and this is what I'm doing, I'm using a sharp knife. I did that a little bit earlier, as you could see, and I remove basically a big part, quite a big of a big chunk of that plastic cards, and then of course I do the finish with the sandpaper. So this basically will allow me to get the best result in a shorter time, because if you have to do sometimes up to 0.7 millimeters of plastic just by sanding them down on every part, it's going to be extremely long. So this is what I'm doing just to save some extra time, and then I do the finished job on the sandpaper. So and as you can see, right now that's what I'm using. That method is very useful basically to get a better grip and to be able to sand basically all that extra plastic. So once our parts are ready, now I'm going to take the fuselage, and what I'm doing, I'm drawing basically the gear doors, and I will have to cut them open with that razor blade saw and rescribing tool as well, and then we're going to be able to remove it, and because this was an order for a friend of mine, and basically he wanted the aircraft to sit on his on the undercarriage. He didn't want it on the stand, so that's what I did. As it was a special request, so I did that, and so basically we're gonna remove that, and then after this we're gonna add the wheel well, and then later on we'll fix the undercarriage. But just have to be a little bit cautious because the plastic can be a bit fragile. But the thing is, after a little while, when you have basically when the carve is a little bit you don't have much plastic left, you just press it, and with the plastic fatigue you're going to be able to remove everything. But that's not the biggest part. And then of course we're going to start working on the fuselage. So now we're going to glue basically the wheel well, and then of course we're going to add as well some ballast. To add some ballast on those models, there is a few techniques. For me, I'm always putting modeling paste, as it's pretty compact and pretty thick. So what I'm doing now, I cut some part on the plastic cards, and I will use those basically those little square of plastic, and that's going to be my guideline. So I'm going to be able to guide both half of the fuselage together, and that will allow me to have a stronger bond as well, and this will add to the structure of the model. So while this is drying, of course we're going to work on other parts, and we're going to glue them together. So at the moment it's the vertical fin combined with the engine, number 2 engine, and then of course there is a little bit of extra work. Then we're going to work on, of course, the stabilizer and the wings. So we're going to do now the same operation for the aft fuselage, or the tail of the aircraft, and that will give a stronger structure basically to the model. And because those models, I mean those vacuum models, sometimes are pretty thin, and they are quite fragile, so you have to be careful, and this basically will add a little bit of a strength to your model. You also have sometimes the cockpit doors or parts like that who will give you basically a better structure as well. So if you have them, just don't forget, just put them on, because then the model will be a little bit more stronger. So as you can see now, I was mentioning, I'm using the modeling paste or the Play-Doh paste as ballast, because that's also a bit sticky, so that will stay and that will remain on the front of the aircraft, and that's for me the best. Some people use some screw and they glue them up to the front, but it's another method. It works as well. I haven't tried it yet, but this has been working for me for years. So now we're closing basically the front fuselage, and as you can see, sometimes you have to do a little bit of filling, and that's where these those little rectangle, those plastic rectangle are useful, because you can add the glue on that, and then I will get you a better bond. Then of course we need to add some adhesive tape to make everything stick together while the glue is curing. As you can see, the fuselage is in two parts, so what I did is I used some other plastic cards to get the same type of guide, and that's going to be very useful basically to bring these after and front fuselage together. So we're going to have to work on those, bend a little bit of plastic sometimes, and then we're going to be able to glue it, and this what will give me the final result. And actually this is very, very important, because this is working really well. And most of the time for those models, sometimes I use that. I use the needle glue, the Revel mainly, because I think I have a stronger bond on those ones, and this is basically what you need for most of those vacuum models. You need strength. So that's what I found is working the best for me. Of course, once we finish those parts, we're gonna fill all the gaps, and believe me, there is a lot of gaps when you do vacuum models. So you're gonna have to do a lot of those, and then of course you're gonna remove all those gaps, and then you're gonna spend a lot of time sanding down, sometimes 2, 3, 4 layers. This model was quite easy, I have to say. I didn't have too much bad surprise, but that can be quite time consuming. And of course, once the putty has dried out, so we're gonna start sanding down and remove all the extra putty on those parts. So it is, well, time consuming of course, but that's a mandatory step if you want to have good result on your models, whether it's a vacuum or regular injected plastic model. It's always give you the best aspect toward the end. So don't forget this step. It's really important. And of course, well, it's time consuming, but the reward, I mean, having a beautiful model at the end in your vitrine is pretty rewarding. So of course now I'm going to do all the fuselage and all the parts, and there might be some more gap filling, and then of course a little bit of rescribing, as sometimes the panel lines disappear under the putty. So now I'm gonna start working on that engine number 2. So what I have to do now, I have to fit the engine lip or the engine cowl anti-ice. So some of the part of the model were into injected plastic, as you could see on the kit review, and now I have to fit it basically on that engine number 2. So there is a little bit of course of adjustment for the parts. And as you could see, I mean, the central part is almost closed as well, so we have to remove that extra plastic who came during the initial part, and then we're gonna remove all that, smooth all the edges with some sandpaper and a file, and then of course we're gonna be able to fix it directly on the number 2 engine. And then of course there will be some gaps, so while we'll have to fill this up with some putty once again. And of course we are back to sanding. So of course we're going to remove all that extra putty, and sometimes, and as I mentioned earlier, I will have to reapply a second layer of putty to make sure that I have really a smooth surface. Sometimes the gaps are filled, but the surface is not really smooth, so you do some adjustment basically on the surface, and that really give you a really nice model. So we're gonna do this, and of course the wings and the other parts will require some of the sanding. So the next step now is to prepare our engine. So initially we're gonna remove the fan and the turbine disc, and then we're gonna prepare the parts, of course, and then we will add them inside one of the part of the engines, and we'll be able to close it. So there will be a little bit of adjustment to do, but as you can see, there is nothing major or nothing too complicated. So what I do sometimes as well is I use a little bit of modeling paste just to adjust the fan disc to be perpendicular to the airflow. So once we close basically the engine, we're gonna add the engine cowl and or the lip or the eyes. So what we will do now is we're gonna have to basically remove all the thickness on the jest exhaust. So I will use my scalpel knife, and I will try to get it to the correct thickness or the correct shape. So as you can see, it's not too complicated. Basically with a rolling twist you are able to get this done. Then of course we're gonna have to fill up all the gaps with some putty, and then of course while this is drying out we're gonna move on to other parts, and of course we're gonna remove some more putty on the wings and other parts of the model. Now that the wings are prepared and ready, we're gonna add some structure. We're gonna put basically, I think we call that a hinge, and we're gonna have it located across the fuselage and into the wings. That's gonna give us a little bit more strength to our model, especially for the wings. And then we're gonna be able to set up as well the correct dihedra, and then of course we're gonna be able to add and glue basically our wings. So first you do the first adjustment, then of course I have to remove some of the glue dried out in my needle, and then of course we're going to be able to add it. Then we're going to put the glue on the hinge, and then we're going to be able to put our wings across the fuselage. So that's, and there will be of course a little bit of fiddling. There is always a little bit of this on those vacuum model. It's true that precision is not as far as, is not as good as what you have on those injected plastic models, but still you have to do a little bit of adjustment yourself. But anyway, nevertheless we can get a pretty decent result in any case. So of course we're gonna add as well, we're gonna fill some gaps with some putty once again between the wing roots and the fuselage, and we're gonna of course have to let it dry a little bit, and then of course remove all the extra putty. So while this is drying, I will do exactly the same for the horizontal stabilizer. I will add a hinge. There was quite a little bit of adjustment, but nothing too complicated. So I start to work on that. I was thinking to fix the horizontal stabilizer, then I realized that I would have some issue later on. So a bit of advice would be to carefully plan your build, because sometimes if you add some parts without carefully thinking ahead, you would have problem basically to reach some areas that you need to work on, and especially for this part, for example, where the horizontal stabilizer would get in the way of the engine pylon, and that was basically the reason why I will have to postpone that for add the stabilizer toward the end of the build, because with this covered I wouldn't be able to reach the engine pylon, and as you will see a little bit later on, there will be a lot of sanding and gap filling. So that's one thing you need to consider. Plan carefully your build instead of just going like I did on this one. Luckily I had a bright light at some point, and then I realized that, oh, I'm gonna get into trouble if I do this part. So that's one of the advice I would give you. Of course, now we're gonna fix the number 2 engine and the tail to the fuselage, and we're gonna fill up all the gaps, of course, using some putty. And you will see that if the stabilizer were there, I wouldn't be able to access easily basically with the sandpaper later on to be able to remove all that extra putty. So that's one thing. Don't rush too much, because sometimes if you rush a little bit too much, you will miss some points, and it's going to be harder for you later on the build. Of course you will be able to reach all those parts, but it's going to be a little bit more complicated, and so just protect yourself and save some time for yourself. Anyway, now as you can see, we remove all the extra putty on the wings and later on the stabilizer, and then we're going to be able to move on our build. So I will now remove all the extra putty from those engines, and I have to say, well, that with those engine lips there was a little bit of a correction to do. I had to do a second layer of putty, as I couldn't get the smooth surface that I wanted to have. And as you can see, there is some you can see some gray tracks, and that's because I had to do another layer of putty to make sure that I had the correct shape for those engines. So sometimes the putty will help you to correct the shape and not only to remove just the gaps. So that's something you have to keep in mind, and this is what I'm doing at the moment. I'm re-adding another layer just to correct to have the proper shape basically for that engine. Now we're gonna add the engine pylon, and those parts were a little bit tricky not to build, but they had a convex form, and that means I will have to use a lot of putty basically to be able to get the correct shape. And now you can see that if I had added the horizontal stabilizer, I wouldn't be able to use the sandpaper as easily as I'm doing it right now. Another point of those engine pylons, basically the shape of those pylons wouldn't put basically the engine in the airflow. They would be basically with a slight angle to the left or to the right. So I had basically to align them, and then I draw with a pencil. I draw basically the line where I wanted to have my engines. And of course, we're going to remove now that extra plastic using a sharp knife, some pretty good cutting tools, and then we'll be able to add our engine a little bit later on. So that was one of the things that you should be warned or be aware when you do those vacuum models. That can be sometimes a little bit difficult. So you have to think about all the little details, and as you can see now, I'm perfectly into the wind stream. So that's what I had to do. And of course, as you can see as well on the engine number 3, there is some pretty big gap. So we're gonna have that gonna require quite a bit of filling and later on sanding. So once again, that's also a good point not to add the horizontal stabilizer too early. Otherwise, that would have been difficult to remove all that extra putty later on. So we will now glue our horizontal stabilizer on the fin, above the number 2 engine, and of course later on we will remove all the extra putty that that we had to put on this part. So that's one of the last part. And then as I had this was also a special order, that Falcon 900 didn't came, the kit didn't come as well with the winglets, so I had to design my own winglets. So the best way was to use some plastic card and try to get the shape of the wing, get the correct dimension, and then start to draw and prepare the winglet. So for this I use some plastic card remaining from a previous model, and of course I start to, as you can see, take the measurement and try to get everything ready basically on that plastic cards. And of course, using a ruler I was able to determine and basically draw everything out. So initially the first part, of course, we have to draw the winglets. Then of course we have to carve into that, because that was a pretty thick plastic card. I think that was a 0.7 millimeter thickness, and that is so we had to cut it at the correct dimension, of course. And for this I used the rescribing tool to carve basically the plastic. So we're gonna use that process, and then of course later on I will use some scissors, but initially we are doing the both side basically, and then of course we're gonna try to get it cut at the correct dimension. The next step basically would be to have the correct length, and for this I will have to, as you can see, sometimes it's a little bit tricky because you're getting close to the edge and close to the maximum depth basically of the plastic cards, and then it's you end up some other place on the other side. So then once it's cut, I had to use a candle basically to melt. I mean, I didn't melt basically, but with the thermal difference basically the plastic becomes softer, and then you are able to bend it on the correct shape. So of course it required quite a little bit of time, and I was using basically the part of my cutting knife, my sharp knife, and then I was able to bend it on the round basically I was able to bend it to the correct shape. I've been using that, and I have to say that I was quite happy, but it required a lot of warming up, coming back, readjusting, because you won't really want to have the winglet to be at the correct shape. So that required quite a bit of work, as you can see, and of course you have to be careful not to burn your hands, because that's pretty hot down there, and but with a little bit of time and patience you can get to a pretty decent result. So initially I was trying to get the correct result, the proper shape, and then when we will have what the desired effect and the desired shape, then we'll be able to adjust the height of that winglet. So I put them together, I see if they were similar, if they had the same shape, as you can see, and then of course we are going to make sure that along the wing I will have basically the same height, and then we're going to be able to cut those parts, the top part basically of our winglets. Of course still using the same parts, and then adjusting as well the shape of that winglet. So I used once again, well, this time I use my scissors, and then we're gonna have to work them out with some sandpaper. I will have to round the leading edge, and I will have to adjust everything, and then of course we'll have a proper shape. Then we're gonna be able to add them on the wings, but I will have to cut as well the wingtip of the 900, and then we'll be able to add them, but you're gonna see that very shortly. So now we are ready to add the winglets, our handmade winglets to that kit. So of course I'm gonna put the glue and add them, and then I realized that I didn't have the strength I was looking for on those winglets. So initially I tried this way. Then I had some very small plug, as you can see from there, and they were coming directly from the wing. Basically they were going inside the wing, and they were on top and the top and the lower part of the winglet, and then they end up inside our wing, and that helped quite a bit to get the winglet at the correct shape and angle. So I was quite happy. Of course that's going to be removed later on when we're going to add the putty. So of course there was a lot of filling to that edge because we needed to get the proper thickness, the proper shape, and but nothing too complicated, I have to say. It went very easily after that, and I was quite happy about the result. I think the person I did it for, my former colleague, was quite happy of the result as well. So we did those winglets, and that was a special order. So we continue basically now. We will remove all the extra putty and get the winglets and that junction at the correct shape. Now that the build is finished, we're gonna go to the paint booth, and initially I will paint with a dark gray color the intake of the number 1, 2 and 3 engines, and of course the exhaust. I will be using the airbrush. I'm trying to paint everything like that. We won't have too many bad effects. The next step is I will paint all the windows and cockpit window with a light gray color, and this is because to be honest, I don't know if I have the skills to use some clear parts. Cutting basically all those passenger windows and these to the correct shape was a little bit too challenging for me, so I decided to go for this effect to make sure and to secure basically a good outcome for the model. And I think it was pretty wise. And so for this I will use basically that light gray color, and then of course I will put some masking tape. The next step now is to paint the leading edge and the engine lips with that shiny or glossy metallic color, and that's going to be for the anti-ice basically system. So we're going to do the wings, the stabilizer of course, and the other part. There is also on the, I had to add as well some effect, as that plane is an overall black color with a silver line, so I did this as well, and then of course putting the masking tape all over and where it was required, and then we're gonna add now our black color on the overhaul of fuselage, wings, and all the aircraft. And then of course the plane is a glossy white, so I had to add another glossy layer later on, a clear varnish glossy layer to give that nice effect. So now that our paint has dried, we're going to remove all the masking tape all over our model and make sure that we have everything was done the correct way. Do maybe some little touch-up. I use some protection for the engine exhaust as well, and I'm using normally some mousse to protect those parts, and like that I don't have too much issues. Then of course we're going to remove all the windows, and then when this will be fully ready, then we're going to be able to go back to the paint booth and add our nice clear coat. I also had to do and paint, basically I did the mask for the registration of the aircraft, as that was a silver color, so it was the same. I have to say that was a challenging part for me to be able to do that. So if you have tips on how to paint or do masking tape for letters, I will be very happy. You can give me some, if they have links how to do it, well, with some video or tutorials, I'll be very happy to learn from you guys. So you could share that with me in the comment box below. I would be very happy if you can help me on that. I think for a first try that was not too bad. Anyway, now we are going to move on to the undercarriage. We're going to glue our wheels and we're going to prepare the undercarriage. We're gonna put our clear coat of varnish, and for this I use just the regular Tamiya clear color, and that's gonna give our nice glossy effect on the overall fuselage. While this is drying, we're going to start painting the undercarriage. So for this I use a light gray color, as I could see on the different pictures and some detailed pictures. And then we're going to have to paint our wheels. Of course, we'll do this, and then we paint the tires in a black color. In the meantime, I will use some metallic color like silver color to paint the landing lights, and then of course we'll cover it some PVA glue a little bit later on, and that will give the effect basically of having the covering lens on the landing lights. We'll now paint our tires, and for this I use a matte black color from Tamiya and a little paintbrush, as you can see, and basically I put that on the two spike, and you can see that with the twisting effect you can roll that very easily, and then it's pretty easy to do a nice job on those wheels. So it's now time to add our undercarriage to the aircraft, and so we will put the nose landing gear, then the main landing gear, and while the glue is curing, we'll start painting basically the gear doors. I will use that light gray color for the inner part of those doors, and later on I will put them on the model, and then I will paint them at the end with a matte black, with a glossy white color. So we're getting really close to the end now. We're gonna add the beacon light on that number 2 engines, and then we're gonna fix our doors, and then we'll be able to paint them, and the plane will be ready for display. So this is the final result of that Falcon 900EX on scale 1/72 from Broplan. The model now is displayed at my friend's home, and I think he's very happy about the result. You can always contact me if you want some video or some models. I can customize them for you depending on how I can do it. But I will be always happy to have the challenge. So you can contact me on the comment box below, and then I will give you an email to contact me and we can discuss that. So thank you for watching this video. I hope to see you soon for another one, for another kit review and build video. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can do it now or give me a thumbs up. That always helps me out for the reference. Thank you for watching.